What's going on, everyone? My name is Ryan from Little King Goods, and today I'm going to talk about the tools that I use most. The tools that I just cannot live without. So stick around and find out what makes my life easier. Check it. Just a disclaimer before I get going, none of the companies that I'm going to be showing you that tool-wise have paid me in any way to say anything on this, just to let you know. These are things that I've picked up over the last year and a half or so that just work really well for me. So let's get started. Number one, this might not be a crazy amazing tool, but I use it every single day, and that is a rotary cutter. And this thing I use 100% of the time. Every time I'm cutting leather, I'm using this, especially to get just the main cuts done. So if I got a big hideout on the table, I use this to get my main cuts done. So if they're long, straight edges, stuff like that, this Olfa cutter, number one. I use this every day. So if you don't use one, maybe you just use a regular knife or a utility knife. Let me talk about that for a sec. So utility knives are great. I know a lot of you guys use them and you swear by them, but for me, tell you the truth, I went the utility knife route and I just really didn't like it. It didn't work as well as a rotary cutter. Something about pulling towards you rather than pushing. You've got more weight on your knife if you're pushing down rather than pulling towards you. That's why bell knives are so popular, because you can push your weight on them and cut through the leather that way. So this is kind of just like a rotary bell knife if you think about it. The blade doesn't move on a bell knife, but on this, it just cuts so nicely. Oh man, it's just so good. What I've noticed as well is that you can strop this blade and it'll stay sharp. Moving on. A mallet. A really heavy mallet is really good for knocking out those holes. Or punching your holes, or your stitching holes, or your pricking irons. Something that's really weighty is really good. And I use this. This is a Very King mallet. Let's see what the weight is on this. I don't know what the weight is on this, but it's nice and hefty, and it's really good. I use this every day, like I said, whenever I'm punching holes with a punch, or with my pricking irons, or watch strap punch, I use this. It's a must-have. Moving on. So I often get asked, what kind of pricking irons do you use? And my answer is always this: KS Blade Punch. They make some of the best pricking irons and watch strap punches I have ever used. They are pricey, I'm not gonna lie, but you get what you pay for. I used to use the ones from Tandy, but they were very inconsistent the way that they lined up. Not a fan, but these are so consistent. So this is the watch strap punch, really good stuff. From KS Blade Punch. It's very accurate, very straight, and the punches are very sharp. I haven't had a problem with them before. I think you're really gonna like them. Also, the pricking irons from KS. Really amazing. I use them all the time when I'm hand stitching. I haven't wanted to try anything else because they're just so great. Pricking irons and watch strap punch from KS Blade Punch. The way to go. All right, moving along. It's very important, I find, to have a really good knife by your side. Aside from the rotary cutter, I think it's really important, especially when you want to get intricate cuts, to have a smaller knife. So I use this. This is the indispensable knife from VERGEZ Blanchard. I use it all the time, especially making smaller cuts on stuff around corners, or you're trying to cut out certain things. But the knife blade itself is actually a blade called Tina. It's a Tina blade, and I got it from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply. Another really important knife is this Japanese skiving knife I got from District Leather Supply. This knife is so sharp right out of the box, it's unbelievable. If you keep it stropped, if you keep it sharp, it'll last you forever. Really good. So aside from skiving, I use this for, especially on bags where my gussets, after I've stitched them, they don't line up. I can come along here and use it kind of like a planer. Really sharp, really good Japanese blue steel. I totally endorse this knife. Really good knife. Here's another tool that is under $1. This little foam brush. This thing is a lifesaver, especially for when I glue stuff. Oh my gosh. They're really cheap, You can use them a ton, and you can just replace them whenever you want, under $1. For a package of 6, it's $1.25 at the dollar store, and I use these religiously, so good. I also get asked what kind of glue do I use almost every day. So it's very, very simple. It's from Tandy Leather, it's water-based, and it's called WELD. There's 2 different glues at Tandy that are similar, but you have to get the WELD. It's more expensive, but way worth the price. I've used it for over 1.5 years and have had no problems. This is really good. Also, if you leave the cap open and it starts to dry out, just add water because it's water-based. Really, really good. Good for the environment and just an overall solid glue. Really like this stuff. So since we're talking about material, I just received these in the mail today from Bill at District Leather Supply. And this is VINYMO bonded nylon. This stuff is incredible, very strong, and just incredible for hand stitching and machine stitching. Another thread that I use all the time, especially when I'm stitching my gussets, is MAINE thread. And MAINE wax polycord is such a super strong, super durable thread that will never break. A lot of people use it, made in the US, really amazing thread. Going back to the tools now, especially when finishing edges, I like to use a really good quality edge beveler. Getting a good edge beveler is very important because of the steel that they use. The steel is everything. The better the quality of the steel, the longer it will stay sharp. So I suggest getting these edge bevelers from PALASANTO tools. I've got 2 of them now and I've never gone wrong with them. Really, really sharp right out of the box, and they last a very, very long time. So, edge bevelers. Another thing before we go into the bigger stuff that I use every day that I just can't live without is TOKONOLE. TOKONOLE has been all over Instagram and people have been asking how do I finish my edges, and this is it. This is TOKONOLE. There's no big secret. Everybody uses it. TOKONOLE is the way to go. It's very easy to use and a little bit goes a long way. Incredible stuff. Get TOKONOLE if you haven't already used it. So quick thing before we go over to the machines is I want to say if you ever need a leather conditioner that is all natural and that is going to be really, really good for your leather, I 100% recommend Smith's Leather Balm. This stuff is really good for the leather, it's good for your skin, it's not toxic. A lot of leather conditioners out there are toxic, and we use this stuff every day as leather workers, and you don't know what's getting in your skin. So be careful, make the right choice, and get some Smiths if you haven't already used it. Alright, now we're gonna move on to the machines. So about 3 or 4 months ago, I picked up this Mighty Wonder. Let me tell you, this thing has been a life changer and a lifesaver since day one. It's not cheap. A lot of these tools that are made in the States, that are heavy duty tools, are not cheap, but worth their weight in gold. So ever since I picked this up, my workflow has, quadrupled. It's just so much faster. So the only drawback with a machine like this is you have to buy dies. Dies are, again, a huge lifesaver. They're a workflow speeder upper. They're really, really great for repetitive leather work. The drawback is that they're expensive to get made up, but they will save you money and time in the long run. We have to think ahead as leather workers. You know, especially if you're first starting out, a lot of these costs can multiply and they can just accumulate and accumulate. But tell you the truth, in the end, once you get your designs right, these are worth every penny. Depending on what kind of project you're doing, if you're clicking out bigger things like patterns for bags or bigger items, you might need the 8-ton or even go up to a 20-ton. It really depends on what you're doing. This is something I cannot live without. So out of all the tools and machines that I have in the shop, this one is probably the most expensive, and for good reason. Ever since I purchased a sewing machine, my life has changed, and I said that once before or twice before, but this video is all about how tools have changed my life and my workflow. So that being said, a sewing machine can really, really help your business, especially if you have to crank out orders all day, every day. These will speed up your workflow. They will also help you to prototype things a lot faster. Before I had this, every prototype had to be hand stitched, and that was just a pain. One thing that I will say is that as soon as you get a machine, you're not going to be a master at it. I remember when I got this machine, I stayed up almost every night for a week and a half till 2, 3 in the morning just learning how to use this thing. It does have a learning curve to it, but keep at it and your stuff can look really, really good. So there's many different attachments or things that you can put on this machine that will make your life even easier. So, drop down edge guide. This thing is beautiful for doing straps. You never have to worry about holding it straight again. You just put this thing on there and boom, it'll just fly right through it, and your leather straps will be just perfectly stitched. Perfectly aligned, that is. Again, you're gonna have to buy a speed reducer if you wanna do any sort of slower, intricate work. So there's a lot more that goes along with a machine than just the machine itself. So just keep that in mind. But I promise you, if you're going to be doing a lot of leather work, a machine is the way to go. All right, I got one more machine to show you. All right, so what I have here is a bell skiver machine. And what this machine does, it takes off little strips of leather from your project or whatever so that you can strip it down, you can thin it down, and you can use it for all sorts of things. Rolled edges, or just making your leather thinner. You can put it through multiple times through this machine, and you can actually use it as a splitter. That being said, I use this machine every single day. It's constantly being used. When I first bought it, I didn't think I would use it at all. Turns out I use it every day. I just love this machine. So obviously there were tools that I didn't show that I use on a regular basis, but what I showed you today is stuff that I just can't live without, that I just use every single day, day in, day out. I hope this gives you a little idea of maybe what you want to spend your money on and what you want to buy tool-wise. But like I said, everybody is different. Everybody creates differently. Everybody uses things differently in a different technique. All right, everyone, I hope that was useful. I just thought I'd throw a quick video together and show you what I use on a daily basis and how these things have changed and affected my leather business. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, I would really appreciate it. I love making these videos, and hopefully you've learned something today that you didn't know before, or stuff that you already knew but saw a new spin on it. So, have a good day, spend time with your family, take care, and we'll hopefully see you soon.